I'll identify the problem and then I'll teach the coping skill. I think two big problems that I do myself, let's say behaviors or patterns, conditions.
Yeah.
I get into overthinking and I disassociate. When I'm stressed out or something triggers me, I'll either overthink it or I'll disassociate. And I see that in many of my clients. And so what happens is that the amygdala gets triggered, a part of your brain that is wired to be alert. And when it perceives anything that is sensed as a threat to your survival, brain, logical part shuts down. We get into that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. We all know about fight or flight, but the freeze part, a lot of people underestimate, and the fawning is a people pleasing. And so what happens is that, when we're in those states, we're not being true to ourselves. We're being true to our survival, but we're cut off from that other part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, that can think abstractly, that can think, in bigger pictures. So we can't stop that. But what we can do is once it's happened, we can interrupt that, and what I call a brain hack, help the brain, the prefrontal cortex part, come back online and help your nervous system reorient itself so that you're not stuck in that survival mode, and you're helping the brain and part of you, probably that frozen part that still thinks, oh my God, this thing is happening again when I was 3 years old, I've stored it. You take a deep breath, the body skill, right? You take a deep inhale through your nose. We can do it together. Big exhale out. And then the observe is you want to observe 3 colors. And whatever place you're at, notice 3 colors in front of you. I see in my background, it's a purplish teal color, an orange, and like a cream. When I'm doing that, my prefrontal cortex comes online because it's a task. And then as I observe 3 objects, coffee cup, glasses, journal, and then 3 sounds, this is where it really brings you back to the moment. You're helping your brain. I hear someone that just made like a knocking sound in the office next door, cars passing, and some kind of sound in the AC. So when you bring your senses to the 3 colors, 3 objects, 3 sounds, the amygdala gets the information. Oh, okay, I'm here now. That threat that I connected this experience to that was stored from my 3-year-old self. Oh, now I know, I have new information. Nervous system says, okay, we can decompress. And as you describe those elements, you're working the prefrontal cortex and again, helping the limbic system and your emotional, brain regulate. And then the why part is yielding. You're yielding to that conditioned, survival response, but you're also yielding to that part of you that's still frozen in time, that's ready to go back. And you're yielding to staying stuck there and bringing her back to now, and bringing your body and your brain back to this moment.
Such a beautiful practice, and so simple when you think about it. I want to break down what happened to me during that. First of all, even just talking about the stresses of it, I was stressed out. And I have learned a technique, and my best friend Memi, and she's a trainer, she does it all the time. When she hears someone going through stuff, she goes, she does it like automatically because of training. She's so used to having people let go of their stress in their muscles, right? Stop the tension, breathe. And it works for everything, right?
Yes.
So number one, when you're thinking of the 3 colors, you're distracting your brain, right? Thinking, and then you're also bringing yourself into the moment, like literally living in the moment.
Yes.
So we live, this is far out there for some people, but other people totally groove on it. What I'm laying down is that every different reality is a different reality, whether you're waking reality, sleeping reality, whether your brain is drifting off into somewhere else, you're bringing yourself back to, I love what you said, your brain drifts off to, okay, I'm going in 2 places, but if you're going to get in a car accident almost and you go, and you get scared, and your reaction, that fight or flight reaction, your body's survival mode to save itself, is the same exact feeling you get when you get a stressor that reminds you of 3-year-old trauma. Your body does exactly the same thing. So what you're doing is you're calming yourself, bringing yourself into the reality of today's present. Literally living in the moment. You painted it so beautifully that it just came together like a beautiful painting for me. That was amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Really. So let's talk about that then. Let's break that down a little bit, because think about the simplicity of it. And that's what you do, because it's all about the science. It is metaphysical, right? We are, bio individual, we're cells and molecules and muscles and shit. But then there's all that spirituality, the emotion that guides us. And you said your body is your brain, right? And in all my nutrition, when I'm speaking about nutrition, that your stomach controls your mood, your stomach, your gut controls your health, overall health and well-being.
Yes.
Your immune system, your happiness, how you control emotions lives in your gut.
Yes.
And
your gut creates serotonin.
Yes. So
your gut literally is like a brain. Yeah. So, in Japanese wisdom and culture, they believe that your gut is your first brain, right? We talk about our gut instincts. You look at the neurobiology, your gut is creating serotonin. Certain foods you eat when broken down will increase that serotonin. Certain foods you eat will reduce that serotonin. So yes, your gut health is so important. And, I have a client who, I get emotional saying it right now, but she stressed herself beyond the max that she created leaky gut because her stress was so intense and she was refusing to manage it in the ways that she could. And she just kept adding on more and more stress to the point that she had, I think it's called, there's a term for it. I'll have to remember it later, but it's just that gut, leaky gut, but it creates this inflammation. And also what it can create is symptoms of depression and suicide ideation. And so I think we really underestimate how powerful the gut is. But with the body skill, I think the emphasis on the breathing is so important because most of us don't realize, including myself, how much freaking time throughout the day we hold our breaths. Because you know why? 80% of our thoughts are negative. It's called negativity bias. So our brain is wired to think that way because if you look at the, longevity of humanity, we are trained and wired to think of the worst case scenario so that we're ready to prepare and survive and protect ourselves. But with the 80% dominance, we tend to stay in this negative narrative and we hold our breath. We're thinking these thoughts in our head and we're not breathing. And then the nervous system's like, I'm going to increase anxiety and maybe insert panic attack because, excuse my language, motherfucker, you got to breathe. Exhale.
Exhale. Yes.
Well, breathe.
Couple that with, and this is a nutrition part of me, but couple that with obesity and, health issues and people who are not breathing, have no circulation, no circulatory oxygen happening. And then they're mouth breathers. So we're meant to breathe out of our nose and our mouth. And it's like the difference between, carbon monoxide and oxygen, right? Or carbon, what is it? What do we breathe? Oxygen and right.
Oh my gosh, now
somebody who knows chime in.
I have a Ph.D, not an M.D.
Well, anyway, like the different form of the way you breathe through your mouth, the gases that are formed versus the way you breathe through your nose and how it affects your brain and all this shit. Yeah. And I read this book and I'll put it up after the podcast with us. It's called Breath or Breathe. I can't remember what it is. And it goes back to all the science, medical science of how our breath is one of the most important tools that we have.
Absolutely.
Right. So back to you and we'll get out of the MD world and we'll get right back to you. And breathing has a way to bring you back to center, bring you back to the reality you're in right now that you have full control over, right? At that moment.
Yes. And I think this is a wonderful place to insert this idea of learned helplessness. A lot of people who've experienced trauma develop learned helplessness, which is this idea that, you know what, this is what I was born into. This is the way life is always going to be. This is the way my life always was. And they forget that they have the freedom of choice. They forget that they have the ability to do something different. And you can say, well, I can't afford therapy and I can't do this. Is well, you know what you can afford to do? Control your breathing, practice breathing. It is, your own, I would say, VIP membership. Nobody has your breath, only you. And so when you learn to breathe in different ways and regulate your emotions and bring yourself back to the present moment, practice present-centered awareness, you don't have to stay and learn helplessness. You can do something different to remind yourself, hey, I can choose something different. I don't have to keep living my life this way. I don't have to stay in this constant state of stress and disassociation. I can inhale through my nose and then slowly exhale it out. One technique that I love that Dr. Claire McCord taught me, she's my healer, it's 626 breathing. It will help you regulate your parasympathetic nervous system. You inhale for 6 seconds, hold for 2, and then you exhale it all out. You do that 3 times, you can help reset your nervous system and not stay, and not stay stuck.
Exactly. Well, I was going to say, so I want to talk a little bit about lonely as fuck.
Yes.
Lonely AF.
I love it when you say it out loud. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. I'm a sailor. I